Street Journal is reporting that Riyadh has offered to renew funding for the Palestinian Authority in a sign of making a serious effort to overcome obstacles to establishing diplomatic relations with Jerusalem. According to this report, Saudi officials try to secure the support of Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas by providing more legitimacy to any eventual agreement and preventing accusations that the kingdom would sacrifice Palestinian efforts to establish an independent state to advance its own goals. Now, for more on this story, let's bring in Palestinian activists from the Fatah movement, Samer Sinijlawi, also the chairman of the Jerusalem Development Fund. Samer, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Guy.
So first, Samer, what do you make of this report? How do you see the Saudi efforts to build trust with the Palestinian leadership ahead of normalizing ties with Israel?
Well, I have several comments on this. First of all, I hope that I welcome the resume of funding to the Palestinians by Saudi Arabia, but I think they should be aware that this leadership is corrupt. So I would advise that any fund that comes from the Saudi Arabia should be channeled through UNRWA to serve the refugees who are now suffering from lack of services. And the second track of fund I would suggest that goes to the health and education sector for Palestinians in Jerusalem. These are very important and essential areas that will help the Palestinian people and not the Palestinian leadership. Second, I am not sure that only by promising the Palestinians with certain amount of funds, this will qualify the Saudis to move ahead with the Israelis on whatever deal is wanted. The Saudis should understand that a Palestinian state as a request for normalization with Israel is not only a Palestinian interest, it is an Israeli interest. Most of the Israelis believe that they need to be separated from Palestinians. They believe that there should be two-state solution. And if the Saudis will move ahead without pushing towards this diplomatic and important political settlement, the Saudis will bury the peace option and possibilities in the Middle East. If the Saudis will only focus on offering Palestinian financial compensation against allowing normalization with the Israelis, going into the track that Netanyahu is trying to push them. Netanyahu is trying to sacrifice the security of Israel by accepting some deal on the nuclear capabilities of Saudi against asking the Saudis to be easy and soft with the Palestinian issue. This is a terrible equation. And it has been proven that this current government, the Israeli government, is terrible in handling the diplomatic relations. It almost last week burned Libya because of leaking a confidential meeting.
Nonetheless, this is the same prime minister who signed these historic Abraham Accords, a great advantage for Israel in the region just 3 years ago. But I want to ask you about the Palestinian people, because a recent survey showed that the vast majority of Palestinians, some 64%, opposed to the Abraham Accords. Do you see a reality in which the Palestinians live together alongside with a strong, independent state of Israel? Will the Palestinian people be ready to accept Israel's right to exist in this region?
Well, most of the Palestinians accept the right of Israel to exist. We are the question to be asked: do Israelis accept a similar right of Palestinians to exist in a state? We recognize Israel. Most of the Palestinians, 80% of the Palestinians recognize Israel. And I think that the Abraham Accords is a good platform for Palestinians to be engaged with the Israelis. On a bilateral negotiation level, we will lose because we confront an opponent in the negotiation table that is hundreds of times stronger than us in economy and military. And how can we negotiate with a lack of balance in power? But when we come into a regional platform, with the Saudis, with the Emiratis, with everybody, and we get engaged into this enhances our possibilities to get a more fair deal with the Israelis. So the Abraham Accords is the best possible platform for Palestinians now to be engaged with the Israelis. And we should go on board of this possibility. And we should be very much engaged with the Saudis now in whatever they are trying to do with the Israelis. I think the Emiratis has learned a lesson from their deal with the Israelis. They cannot trust the Israelis on verbal commitments. Netanyahu himself said, no, he will not take any steps in settlements and annexation in the West Bank. Now his Minister of Finance, Smotrich, is doing de facto annexation in the West Bank. He's expanding the settlements activity, putting a lot of budget, promised that the number of settlers in the West Bank will be 1 million, will be doubled in a few years.
We will not solve the...
No, they cannot trust verbal commitment from Israel.
Yes, we will not solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in this conversation, but trust is certainly vital to whatever developments that do happen. Samer Sinijlawi, chairman of the Jerusalem Development Fund, we thank you for your insight this morning.